at our news website, Gothamist.
WNYC supporters include FX's The Bear, Jeremy Allen White, Iowa Debery, and Evan Moss Backrack, starring a series about food, family, the insanity of the grind, and the steep, slippery downsides. Awards eligible. Info at fxnetworks.com.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC NewsHour on WNYC. Let's check in with London and see what they're working on. London, good morning.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Nuala McGovern. On today's NewsHour, Japan continues its rescue efforts following a powerful earthquake, calling it a race against time. We also look at Israel's Supreme Court striking down controversial judicial reforms and the psychotherapist Esther Perel on relationships. That's BBC NewsHour coming up at 9 on WNYC.
We're right at the freezing mark right now under mostly sunny skies in the big city. Sunny and 43 for a high today, just above freezing tonight, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and 46 for a high. We might see some snow showers overnight into Thursday. Thursday's forecast cloudy, then mostly sunny and 43. We cool off on Friday. It'll be cold.
It is the first work day of 2024, and for millions of Americans, that means a pay bump.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto. Learn more about bundling at progressive.com. And by C3 Generative AI, verified traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free. Learn more at c3.ai.
I'm David Brancaccio. As of this week, the minimum wage is higher in nearly half the country, and companies are budgeting for more wage increases ahead. Marketplace's Nova Safo is here with some details.
And in fact, states have been passing their own minimum wage increases as the federal minimum wage remains stagnant. It's at $7.25 an hour. A lot of states in the South and the Rust Belt are still at that rate, but big contrast to places like California, where the new minimum wage is now $16 an hour. In New York State, it's up to $15 an hour. More than half the people getting raises today are in 3 states, New York, California, and Hawaii. That's according to a tally from the Economic Policy Institute. And among those getting raises, the Institute says more than half are women, 11% are black, and nearly 40% Latino. 1 in 5 are workers whose incomes were below the federal poverty line. That means they're making less than $15,000 a year. So these wage increases have a huge impact for those folks.
And a lot of places have started to peg changes to their minimum wage to inflation.
That's right, including California, also Maine, Montana, Arizona. And again, these are about minimum wages. Employers, a lot of them are outpacing those minimum wage increases. Walmart, for instance, has set its starting wages between $14 and $19 an hour. According to the Conference Board think tank, companies expect to pay their employees about 4% more this year than they did last year, David.
All right. Now, not to be that guy, but it is also a new tax year in 2024 here. The IRS is trying something new. Some taxpayers in 12 states will be able to electronically file their federal returns directly with the IRS as opposed to using third parties. Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes has more.
To start, the pilot will be limited to people with relatively simple tax returns, says University of Texas accounting professor Lisa DeSimone.
If you itemize your deductions, for example, it's not going to be an option for you because that adds a lot of complexity to your tax return.
People who claim certain credits or have gig income are also not eligible. DeSimone says this new program comes after the Treasury Department found that very few eligible taxpayers were using the IRS's existing free file program, which relies on outside vendors.
A lot of the companies that were supposed to be offering these products for free were directing taxpayers instead to their paid products.
The IRS estimates making the program available to taxpayers on a broader scale could cost up to $249 million annually. Matthew Gardner is with the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy.
If that sounds like a lot, to put this in context, Americans spend something like $14 billion a year on tax prep right now.
And the idea here, he says, is to reduce both the money and time we all spend doing our taxes. I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
The stock market opens for its first 2024 session in about half an hour here. Futures are pointing to a drop at the start. S&P futures now down 0.7%. I see NASDAQ futures down 1%. In other marketplace stories making headlines, the people negotiating the big golf merger missed their end-of-year deadline with talks extended. PGA Tour is based in Florida and Live Golf is based in Britain and Saudi-owned. PGA is set to hold control of the combined firm's board of directors. U.S. antitrust authorities will likely review all of this. And wholesale property insurance rates are expected to go up by 50% this new year, with costs likely to be passed down to regular property owners. It's about the global cost of insuring catastrophes, from major storms amid climate change to earthquakes. Last year, wildfires in Hawaii and the Turkey-Syria quake contributed to $100 billion in global insurance losses. That's down slightly from 2022, but well above the old normal, according to industry estimates.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by UiPath. More than 10,000 organizations use the UiPath AI-powered business automation platform to put AI to work. UiPath.com/marketplace. UiPath, the foundation of innovation. And by Financially Inclined, a podcast from Marketplace, is all about money lessons for living life your own way. Listen to the new season wherever you get your podcasts.
With the new year comes new costs for medicines. Drug makers plan to raise prices on more than 500 drugs this month, according to the healthcare research firm 3 Axis Advisors. Here's Marketplace's Kristen Schwab.
There are only a few things certain in life: death, taxes, and apparently increases to prescription drug prices at the beginning of the year. Antonio Chacha is president of 3 Axis Advisors.
So January is the hotbed of prescription drug pricing changes.
Mostly because that's also when insurance plans turn over. Chacha expects prices to increase around 5% this month, which he says is typical.
One could argue that if a drug manufacturer didn't take a price increase, that in essence it is a price cut because their prices are not keeping up with rates of inflation.
Inflation is one factor drug makers note. Also worries about supply chains that cross the Middle East. But Stacy Doucette-Sina, a professor of health policy at Vanderbilt University, says drug pricing strategy is often opaque.
These price increases can be pretty arbitrary. I think that's one thing that really frustrates the average person and the policymakers around drug price increases.
It's one reason why there's been more regulation of drug pricing, including the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, which capped how much drug makers can increase prices for people on Medicare.
So now they're limited to increasing prices only at the rate of inflation.
But that doesn't shield everyone else from rising costs. And everyone else includes health insurers, pharmacies, and you. Andrea Dukas is vice president of health policy at the Center for American Progress.
So for an individual, it really is going to depend on what their insurance situation is, right? What their out-of-pocket expenses are, what their copay is.
It means you won't really know how much these price increases will affect you until you get to the pharmacy counter. I'm Kristen Schwab for Marketplace.
And as it is 2024, Californians, regardless of age or immigration status, can now qualify for Medi-Cal, California's version of the federal Medicaid program for people with lower incomes. Healthcare advocates say the program will save lives, and in the long run, it could save the state money. Critics say California now has a $68 billion budget deficit and can't afford this. It's Marketplace Morning Report. We are from APM, American Public Media.